صوتي مسموع ولا اوكي؟ Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you here tonight. صوت أكتر من كده. I welcome you here tonight. And before we start, I would like to thank the Canadian Embassy and the person of Mr. Bertrand Desjardins, who is hosting us here tonight. And I would like to welcome. I would like to welcome Dr. Ibrahim Karim, the founder of the BioGeometry. This is the new fascinating field of science that we all really very care about. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give the introduction of our guest today to our new youth committee, the new dynamic committee, which is formed of the gentlemen Ahmed Zaki and Ibrahim Karim and Mohammed Bahnes. These gentlemen actually they showed all the spirit and dedication that would be ever shown, although they are newcomers to the council and with no any back experience in the NGO. And we are really very proud of them. So I would like Ahmed Zaki to come and present our guest today.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members and guests, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. President for his kind work and for his great support for establishing this committee. Attending numerous successful events this Atrium as part of the audience, I was inspired by the members' efforts to enhance Egyptian-Canadian relations through bilateral trade in diverse sectors. Their efforts encouraged me to inspire about providing a platform where youth enthusiasm and ambitions can be linked to mentors' experience and expertise. A link that will result in the emergence of a new generation of skilled and well-informed interpreters. Educated youth present a large and effective percentage of the Egyptian and Canadian population. A percentage that confirms the necessity of providing a youth-by-youth and youth-for-youth initiative. Youth from both sides will have the opportunity to interact, develop mutual understanding, and strong collaboration ties. We approach architecture as our chosen launching sector, not merely as a practice, but as a vital medium for enhancing the understanding and appreciation of cultures, a reflection of diverse environmental, political, and social cultural influences, a symbol of a state of being. A shaping influence that cannot be ignored is the impact of modern science and technologies on contemporary cultural architecture. Aware of this impact, we were keen to present in our first event a unique science that stemmed from our local heritage roots. An Egyptian breakthrough founded by an Egyptian scientist who has received world recognition and a distinguished international status for his concepts and vision. A science that has evolved from an architectural background to enhance all of life's activities. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to present Dr. Ibrahim Karim, the founder of BioGeometry. Before I leave, I would like to dedicate a special thank you to Mrs. Sami Al-Hamad, the Council's Executive Director, for her efforts and support for the committee from day one.
It's my pleasure to be with you today. Can you hear me okay? All right? It's my pleasure to be with you today. And we are going to present some of the work in biogeometry. For an hour, the presentation will take an hour in order that we can use the second hour for interaction and questions between us. I'm very honored to be here with the Youth Committee. I've applied for membership in the youth committee. So I don't know if they'll have me, but they're negotiating the matter. So I'm going to start first with a few things, a bit related to our youth, some things related to what the committee does, and then we'll go to some of our projects. Today we're on the yellow side, but I can't get the screen to change colors, so we have to stick to that. This is a present that my daughter gave me when she was 13, that was 5-6 years ago. And we were in Florida, and she went into one of the shops here, it was Father's Day, and she was looking for something that she thought would suit me, and she found this, and we can see her. We can't see much, that's her coming out of the shop here, and that's Rawa, my wife here, helping her choose a present for me, but I cherish this present very much. Now, looking at our youth, because our biggest projects are our youth. Our youth, once we can have them, have their visions, they can have true visions. When you're young, your visions have no boundaries. But as we grow older, as you know, of course, we start having so many, so we can get sort of programmed by everything around us. So the youth have this ability to really transcend all boundaries. And we want the youth to have true visions. And true visions have their own wings and create bridges. So we are going to see in the example of biogeometry how having a vision and following it, you can really transcend all boundaries. This is a CV, but I think you have the CV on paper here. So we're going to go straight away to the work of the committee. This committee deals with culture, technology and culture transfer, actually deals with architecture and culture. So many people have a problem with this aspect in this age of globalization. And we're going to go step by step with them through it in order to understand how globalization works and how to make the best out of it. First of all, globalization is the oldest thing in history. I mean, ancient Egypt, here was the birth of globalization. So when we speak about globalization, we started it. We are the ones who started it. Any center of civilization has to radiate. So globalization is radiation from the centers of civilization. And when you have something, you just radiate it. So we've been doing this for so many thousands of years. And we've radiated not only the birth of Western civilization came when the Greek philosophers like Pythagoras and others, when they came and learned here in Egypt and then started Western civilization, but we also sort of radiated Judaism, we radiated Christianity. See, so we played so many roles in globalization that actually we could be historically the biggest globalizers that there is. Now, also Islam as a global center. Through Islam and the preservation of Western culture, which led to the birth of the Renaissance. So actually, globalization here has a very important role in sort of moving cultures, keeping heritage and all that, if you use it properly. So it's not something we should be afraid of, since we were the ones who started it. We can always continue doing it. There are two things in globalization. That's what we are afraid of. The possible harmful side effect is the gradual loss of local identity within the global culture. We find so many people discussing this aspect and taking a position against globalization because they're afraid of losing their own identity. But we could have possible benefits. How can we can actually promote a local culture to become a global culture? So it all depends on us. Is globalization bad or good? Is how we use it. And our youth here should have the vision to start using globalization to their benefit. Usually, global cultures will radiate from the centers of civilization to the regions, to the local areas. This is the normal thing. Let's say here, programs radiate from building into television to all of us. They have to radiate from there, and we receive. Somebody has to radiate, somebody has to receive. And as it stands today, it's normal that the flow comes from the first world to the third world. So we should know how the flow works in order to use it to our benefit. If we want to go and swim against the flow, then we'll keep grumbling all the time and not reaching anything. So here, the regional cultures must learn the global language in order to export and impregnate the global centers with what they have, and then from there it will radiate all over the world. So you can actually sort of find a way of making all your culture a global culture, even though you're not at the center, by speaking the language and taking what you have, putting it there, and let it radiate everywhere. So the youth must know that you can do that from the third world, you can do that from anywhere. Now, there are agents of transfer of culture and technology, and we know that. The agents that transfer from the first world to the third world. This is the easiest and most obvious way coming from the center here. The opposite is the most difficult. So agents are required. Today, I'm going to give some example of agents. Examples of possible agents are international organizations, conferences, exhibitions, seminars, etc., and all those things. We will not go into all these today. We will go into things that concern us here. And these things are examples that we present today. The role of chambers of commerce, like this one, the role of committee. And the project that I'm going to present today, the main project, I'll represent another agent where the banks also played a sort of transfer from third world to first world. Then we'll show some examples of international research also from third world to first world. This is just biogeometry in a nutshell. It's a modern physics of quality. We all know what quantity is. All our sciences are quantitative sciences. So what we cannot measure is not scientific. And that is a big problem because the qualitative aspects of life are actually more important. Our senses, our five senses, they work qualitatively. When you take, for example, some salt and put it in your mouth, your brain doesn't tell you sodium chloride. Your brain tells you it's salty. So actually, our measurement is a qualitative measurement and not a quantitative measurement. But we have managed to define science as something that has to be quantitatively measured, and what is not measured is somehow on the side. And this is exactly what we want to restore a sort of physics of quality. When the Greeks came out of Egypt, they came to the Egyptian temples, people like Pythagoras, who was the most famous of them, and they studied in the temples all the ancient sciences here in Egypt. Now, people think that those people came to Egypt to study in the temples, or they must have studied esoteric things, magic things like that, or it wasn't like that. I mean, when my father sent me to Switzerland, it was not to study esoteric sciences or something like that. He sent me to Switzerland because there is one of the best universities in architecture, something practical, so he sent me there to come back as an architect. So when these people sent people to the temples in Egypt, it was because Egypt was the center of civilization in science and technology, something very solid. Science and technology, that's what they learned here. But what kind of science? It was a science that was equally based on quality and quantity. When the Greeks went back, somehow they took the quantitative side, developed that into Western culture, and the qualitative side was forgotten. Pythagoras, when he was dying, the last thing he said, please play a note on the monochord. Because on the monochord, which is one string instrument like this, you put your finger on a certain length, centimeters, that's quantity, and then when you hit it, comes up quality. The length is there whether the human being is here or not. So quantity is there whether we are interacting with it or not. But quality is not there without the user. So quality is a relationship. It's a relationship with the human being. Now if you build a whole science, a whole civilization, and our great civilization was built by quality, by quantity, that doesn't mean that measurements of quantities are bad. But that means we started a bit on the wrong foot because we neglected one thing, and that's the relationship to the human being. And that's what we're trying to restore today. So here, the most important thing about biogeometry is a new physics of quality. When we developed this new physics of quality, then all of a sudden we found that we had the keys to all ancient sciences and ancient knowledge, because it was all based on that. And once you know that, then you understand the value of all ancient beliefs and all that. When we speak about the pharaohs, and we say the pharaohs, the netters, these are the gods and all that, when you understand the physics of quality, then these are the forces of nature, and they are used exactly like we use electricity and all that, but they use all the forces of nature in their practical everyday life. All this was lost, you see. So, with the physics of quality, quality we say is a relationship. We bring harmony into interaction of biological system with the environment. Because it's a relationship between man and his environment. This is a very, very important aspect, this relationship between man and his environment, because we seem to be neglecting it so much. Now, the value of any new science must be measured against what it can do to provide solutions to global problems. I mean, when we develop something, it must solve something, otherwise it's of no use. And if this something is really a global problem, then we can take this science and export it globally. Now, what are our global problems? Global life extinction is our main problem. We've become so great that we're destroying our planet, we're destroying life on it. So, the first problem is the nuclear arsenal, and I think the nice thing about it, that once we know a threat and we fear it, we start behaving properly in order to find a solution. And so here, we're on the way to finding a solution. Environmental pollution, it took us some time to fear it and understand what it will do to us and how we can end life on Earth by environmental pollution. But now I think that awareness everywhere in the world is sort of taking us towards some solutions, so this will not be a major problem in the future. Now, there is another thing that we are not aware of. Civilizations end by things that we are not aware of or that we do not want to be aware of. And in the age of information, there is a time bomb in there, in the age of information. Because the age of information has given us so much, but it is dependent on electromagnetic energy. It is dependent on carrier waves. And whatever we say about carrier waves, if we say that we can keep them low enough at a certain, they are not harmful at a certain quantity and all that, if we reduce the power, there won't be any problem. But just think about what's happening now. By the time you reduce the pollutants in the environment by 10%, you multiply the electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere of the Earth 100%. This is what's happening every day. Now, how can the cells of our body communicate when they communicate at a millionth of the strength of all those modern devices? How can you have a breeze move through a storm? There must be distortion. So, one day, something will happen. Immune systems will just collapse. Immune systems, biological immune systems, that means humans, plants, and animals. And that will be bye-bye to our civilization. It was nice and all that, but it's gone. Now, today, I'm going to present BioGeometry with one main presentation. The main presentation will be the Swiss Mobile Communication Research Project because it deals with the harmful side effects of electromagnetic energy. So I'll take that as a main topic today. And then as I'll give general overviews of other projects in agriculture, I'll take some research in the University of Wageningen in Holland, some saltwater research here, some animal farming projects, and then biofish technology, taxi research. These are overviews of other possible uses in biogeometry. So that will be main topics, and these will be my side topics for today. Now, this is the tourist resort called Hamburg. It's a very, very nice tourist resort, high on the mountains above Canton St. Gallen in there. And this heaven on earth somehow deteriorated because antennas, mobile communication antennas, in places like Switzerland, they are usually hidden either inside church towers like here or inside a tree like here in California. And the reason for that is when the population is very sensitive to nature and the view and all that, they hide the antennas. When the population doesn't care, then they just put it anywhere. Nobody cares. So here they put it inside the church. Unfortunately, this caused other problems of putting modern technology with religion and all that, but that was not the main reason for, let's say, the major problem here. I'll walk you slowly through what happened in Hamburg here. This is the official study that was published a few weeks ago. The project actually took place 1.5 years ago, and this is, let's say, a survey that was done lately to see if the results have been sustained all the time. And what happened in Hamburg? The people in Hamburg, they got their antenna there. They were very happy. They have mobile phones. They have everything. But 3 months later, things started to go wrong. They started having headaches. They started having chronic fatigue symptoms, irritability, aggression, rheumatic problems, irregular heartbeats, what they call a form of tinnitus in the ear called tone that they get there. And for example, they had lots of psychological problems, and especially children who were a bit sensitive, some epileptic children became really worse after the antenna. The others, concentration problems with the children, autistic children have problems. All mental faculties were disturbed, not only with the children, but with the children and with the grown-ups. Of course, those things, what I'm telling you, is nothing new to all of you. Today I have a very bad flu, so I hope that being with you will give me a lot of energy so I can go through the 2 hours. So, what these people felt, every one of us feels. I mean, that we're tired in the morning, we have those headaches, we have all these things. But the thing is, one feels it more than the other. If somebody has, for example, amalgam in his teeth, he'll feel it a bit more because of the metal, things like that. Depending on what you wear, you'll feel it more. And then the waves move like this, waves move like that. So a house near the antenna might not have such severe problems, and maybe the third or fourth house might have severe problems. And that is in itself a problem, because when the person in the third house complains, they tell him the one living near the antenna is not complaining, so how come you complain? So it's all psychological. Okay, I'll stop here a bit and say a few things. Now, in Switzerland, when those problems of mobile communication started appearing everywhere, this village of Hamburg became sort of the focus. This is where the population of Switzerland bundled together and starting their fight against the government, and wanted their rights, they wanted their health and all that. So sort of Hamburg became like the Waterloo where the battle was taking place. For 2 years, the battle was taking place with no solution. The population there wanted two things. They wanted the antennas to be removed from residential areas, to be put outside the residential areas. That was not very practical because you need your phone in the residential area. And they would have to put more than one antenna than if they remove them outside. And then the second thing was to reduce the power by maybe 10 times. If you reduce the power, then you need much more antennas again, then you have bigger problems again. And that's where the whole thing stopped at for 2 years. And then came one of the agents of technology transfer, like I said, the Credit Suisse private banking. They sort of, through their work here with me and all that, they saw the problem in Switzerland, and they started this transfer of BioGeometry from here to solve the problem in Switzerland. So Mr. Bruderer of Credit Suisse contacted the Mobile Communication Authority. They had done several authorities there. One was the mediation authority, the other one was a supervision authority. So he contacted the mediation authority and told them, why don't we try a far-off solution. I mean, there is a solution, you might not believe in it, but why don't we try it? And what helped him was that I have a Doctor of Science degree from the Polytechnic in Zurich. So actually, that my introduction is half Swiss, so it didn't really disturb them trying something strange. But that's what they wrote in the letters to the people. They said, well, until now, we couldn't find any solutions, so we had nothing to give. But we heard that somewhere far away in Egypt, there's a science called BioGeometry that can help. And we will not wait. We will just go and bring this Karim here in Switzerland and ask him to try this thing, although we have no idea what it is, but we will try this. So, and there was a little touch to it by Andy Broder, my friend, in Swiss. He phoned me, I was in the United States, and told me about the problem, and told me, you know what, I promised something, and I promised it in your name already. I told them that you owe Switzerland so much because they gave you studied architecture there and took your doctor's degree there. So I told them, you're going to do the first pilot project there as a present to the Swiss government. So I said that you already promised. Then, okay, so we went to the village and we installed our biogeometric shapes. I'll show you now here. That's the mediation authority that the government created. Until that date, the mediation authority was just receiving complaints, trying to convince the people not to go to court. I mean, that was the main thing that was being done, trying to sort of bring some peace into the situation. Here we have the study has some articles from some of the people who live there. I'm bringing in some of their words that you understand. You see, this one of them, Miss Regula Keller here, is saying, on some days they had to leave their houses. I'll go some days to the village, and nobody was there. They left the houses and went up the mountain. They just couldn't stay there. And here her husband's health, who was running the garage, deteriorated badly, that half the week he was in bed and not working. He was tired, had headaches and all that. The children couldn't sleep at night, and this picture shows they put some cloth here with metal in it to protect them from the radiation, but it didn't help much. Some of them here had to go in the cellars and sit down there in order to be able to function, because the headaches, the pressures and all that, they could, as soon as they went up in the house, things started, so they were actually living down there. See, the beds are down there. The nervous tension became something, I mean, we're used to it. We're saying nervous tension, aggression, all that, we live that. But these people were not like that. This was a tourist resort. They were very peaceful people. Some of the elders here were already on the brink of divorce. They couldn't stand each other anymore. The children were having problems because in the morning they told us, for example, the parents were always scolding them and all that. And the children were, because in their turn, they were not concentrating at school. And so, just to give you an idea, that's equipped like that thing. Now, this is another lady there who, you see, she never thought. She bought a house in Hamburg. She moved from another area because Hamburg was so healthy. So she came over there, and now she stayed there, and all of a sudden she never thought that the antenna would affect her that much. You see, I'll go through these things quickly like that. Now, after we installed the biogeometrical shapes, you see here, for example, this is Mrs. Keller. She's saying she can enjoy life again. People started having a normal life. There's a change occurred. You cannot see this change unless you really go there and sit with people. All of a sudden, those people who were on the brink of divorce, 70-year-olds, were now telling me, we're back like we were 30 years ago or something like that. We feel different, you know. And the children were now telling me, oh, our parents are nice with us at breakfast time in the morning because we're getting good grades now, and things like that. What touched me most, of course, was that the epileptic children became better and they had no seizures. We even know of a family who lived near Zurich in Winterthur, and they had a child 2 years old with 5 seizures a day since he was born. So by the time he was 2 years, of course, he didn't move hands or legs or no cognitive, nothing at all. And they went to their grandparents up there in Hamburg and stayed for the holidays for 3 weeks, and not one epileptic seizure for that kid. When they went back to Winterthur, it started again. This lady collapsed once and had to be hospitalized. And I saw such a collapse once while I was in the village. She was walking like this near the wall, and on the other side of the wall was an electric transformer. So she was just walking like this, and all of a sudden when she came here, she just fell, unconscious. I didn't know what happened. And her husband said, I told you, no, she shouldn't walk here. Now, what is this, what happened? There's something new now that people are starting to acknowledge, that doctors are starting to acknowledge, and this is called electrosensitivity. Electrosensitivity is a new thing now, like a new type of allergy or something like that. And in Switzerland and Germany, they have a questionnaire, about a 6-7 page questionnaire for the doctors to use with their patients to see if they are electrosensitive or not. Now, the birds here, you see. They're saying after a short while the birds came back. You know, those people are farmers, and they live with the environment. They feel ecology is part of their life. What happened there was the birds came, the migrating birds were swallows mainly. They came after the installation of the antenna, laid their eggs there like every year, and the chicks, some chicks came out, and all of a sudden they couldn't take it anymore. They left the eggs and chicks, and they went away and never came back again. They changed the path to another side of the mountain. And many things like bats. Here we might say, okay, if the mountains, in this area, there's a little animal that looks like a very small fox like that, or like a little dog that's called a martyr. And these martyrs are actually a nuisance. They come and they go under the car and they eat the tubes of your brakes and all that. So if you drive, you have no brakes and all that. So they're a nuisance. But the people there were so sad that the martyrs are not there. Because they say something is wrong. When all the goats go away, something is wrong. Now, after a short while here you see everything came back. The swallows came back. The experts told us that when birds change their migrating routes, they will not come back. They sort of get a new habit and they won't come back there. But a few days after we installed the biogeometric shapes, the bats came back, birds came back, and something, I was personally surprised. I can't tell all the results from the beginning, what happens when you sort of harmonize the environment. See, they saw bats come back and go. Here, you see at the bottom here, the people started learning biogeometry. They worked with me all the time. They wanted to learn biogeometry. And they started manufacturing devices for me and we would invent new things and manufacture things. And this is one of the devices. These are my biogeometrical shapes, and they made a device like a flower like that can change angle, and you could actually have, if you have antennas around you, you can adjust each one to a certain, and aim it at a certain source and all that. So they were really working with me. I mean, they saw things were getting better, so they started working with me. Now, this is the medical survey that was done there, and at the end of the lecture, I'm going to say a few words about what biogeometrical healing is and what it's not, because it's not a form of medical treatment. But unfortunately, when you come to such a study, you will read about the birds and the bees and the bats and the ecology and the plants and all that in a paragraph or two. And then you will read about the health of the human beings in maybe 20 pages. And that's a problem, because I told them, okay, what if the environment became all right, harmonized? What if the plants are better, the birds and bees and everything, and you are still sick? The project is still a success. But you see, it doesn't solve their problem. So, but when people concentrate on their medical problems, they tend to sidetrack biogeometry as a new form of medicine. And that's a problem that I keep explaining all the time. That's the general, you see, the general, sort of all the graphs are put together here. Symptoms, you see, the first one here is free of symptoms. And then here slight, here medium, and here strong. And afterwards, that's again free, slight, medium, strong. So you see what happened? Most of the people had strong symptoms. These are the general symptoms. Now, the strong symptoms went down, and see, the free of symptoms went drastically up. Some people from the press came when we were making a press conference and asked, is there somebody still sick in Hamburg? See, this is again the media trying to make a splash, which is not the case here. Here we go into different areas of the body. Now, the head area, head and concentration, is the area, they took it per area in the body like that. The head and concentration were the mostly affected. Psychological irritation, all kinds of headaches. Most of the problems, this area was mostly affected here. So that's why you find the biggest change happens in psychological and mental problems here. See the drastic change? Then here you see problems in the head area. There's a deeper analysis later on, but that is taking it area-wise. Then here, when we go, for example, this is back and rheumatology. We see back and rheumatology, we see also a big change. Then we go, as we go lower in the body, then the changes get less. There are other problems in the lower body that come in the detailed analysis. Here, this is the digestive area. Well, there's a slight improvement here. The strong symptoms are gone. Then we go here, kidneys and urinary bladder. There's also a slight improvement here, as you see. And then here, where there isn't much change, this is other problems where sort of psychological, subjective effects have influenced actual objective problems. And I don't know exactly the details of this group, but here, as you see in this group, there's very little change here. Now, I don't think you want to know all those things that got better, because I don't want to start a scare tactic here. You know, if I wanted you to go out in the streets and say, we want to solve electrosmog in Cairo, I'd start reading all those things. But there are things here that you would think that are totally unrelated to electrosmog, and you still find them in these areas. But I don't want to scare you, so we'll go on. Here, on the 22nd of October, we started the project in August. On the 22nd of October, we made a press conference where we gave the results to the media. Here, the scientific survey was done later, 2004, but that was in 2003. So here we have the results. Here are after 3 months. The results here in the survey are after more than a year. Now, this is Mrs. Erica Forster. She is in the parliament. She is the chief officer for electrosmog and environment in Switzerland. So she's a very powerful lady here, and she is also head of the mediation office. And she is here in front of the press telling them about our results. Now, we won't go into these things, they're part of the study, but Hamburg sort of give the people more incentive. They went into the parliaments asking for things, and all that. Motions started coming every day in the parliament, discussions about laws and all that. So there's a lot of activity that has been generated through the project of Hamburg in the parliament here. Every day you find activity like that, discussing the rights of the Swiss people to have a healthy life and all that. Now, the word unbelievable here tells us many things. When you achieve very big results with very little means, because they only see we're putting geometrical shapes, they don't see all the work behind it. Then to them, it is unbelievable. When I went there in the beginning, I thought if the people got better, they wouldn't say they got better. Because if some of them wanted to make court cases in the government and all that, they'll never say publicly that they got better. But the nice thing is, they really got better. And they said it. And in one conference, when I went there, Mr. and Mrs. Keller, the elders of the village, came and told me, you know what, at last, after years of conflict and fighting with the government, now we can enjoy our old age and enjoy our life here in Hamburg again. And thanks to you, you've done all that. And then I went there. 3 months later, they had a conference in Hamburg, and I went there. The same two persons came and told me, you know what, our fight is only beginning. Because when we see all the people from the other areas in Switzerland coming to the conference in Hamburg, and we see in their eyes what they are going through, and they look and see what we have, because we have become healthy, it is our duty to fight for the others. You see, this touched me very much. You know, usually when somebody gets a solution, it takes it to help everybody else. No, here there was a very, very positive reaction from those people in Hamburg, and now they are leading this whole fight in order to have solutions for electrosmog northern Switzerland. Here is a very, very important breakthrough for biogeometry, the mobile technology and all that, because here there's a change. What is the change here? When we are speaking about quantitative physics, then what was happening? You had an antenna, you brought your instruments and went near the window, you started measuring, and when you found here a lot of electromagnetic activity, then you looked what's out there. It's the antenna. So you say the antenna is causing the problems, but if you go inside your computer or something like that and do the same measurement, you probably get 80% from another source and not the antenna. So measuring directly at sources doesn't help very much. So Swisscom here wrote this letter to the Building Biology magazine, because the Building Biology magazine is saying here that we managed to have an interview with Dr. Karim from Egypt, who transformed bad electromagnetic radiation to good electromagnetic radiation. And straight away they said, the media here is using a scare tactic, is putting something in the heads of the population that this is bad electromagnetic radiation and this will cause lots of problems. And here they went and said, we have to go to Ibrahim Karim and his analysis based on the physics of quality. In quality, we look at things a bit differently. In quantity, you have a wavelength from this size, small, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you only acknowledge what you can measure, the biggest and the smallest. But in quality, it works differently. I'll tell you a little joke that came to my mind. You know, when I have a flu, I have to say jokes to boost my immune energy a bit. So, there's a Sufi that we all call in Arabic Goha. And he was walking under the lamp in the street and looking for something there. And somebody came and said, Goha, what are you looking for? He said, I lost my key. And he said, okay, I'll help you. Where exactly did you lose it? And Goha said, over there. He said, so why are you looking here? He said, because there is dark and here is light. Now, we all laugh. Why are we laughing? Because we have been quantitatively programmed in time and space. I'll take this example and make a little experiment. I get a musical instrument like a piano or a harp with all the string lengths, and I cover all of it, so it's in the dark, and I leave only 7 notes at the end. And I put a coin somewhere hidden in the dark on my key. And I tell you now, okay, let's find the key. So we know of the effect called resonance, that every string will enter into resonance with any string double its size or half its size. That's why we call do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Not just because somebody ran out of words, so we decided to use the same words again. See? So what happens is, every time when I hit a chord, let's say a do, and listen, a re, when I hit the one that has the same, let's say musical note, or the same qualitative, the same quality like the other one, resonance happens, and then this thing, the coin falls or the key falls. Here, according to BioGeometry, according to qualitative physics, I analyzed the whole problem differently. I came and told them, look, in modern technology, you have wavelengths, which are strings everywhere. You see, you have, let's say, mobile communication, you have going at 1800 hertz. And then you have in your home 60. But 60, 1800 is a multiple of 60, so there could be a resonance between them. So now, when you go and sleep in your bed, the electricity of the wall is disturbing your sleep because resonance started a sort of an invisible echo among all electromagnetic sources. And here, this is a scientist from the ETH, the Polytechnic where I've studied, and from Swisscom. And he is saying we should change our scientific worldview to what Ibrahim said, and he says here he never once said bad radiation and good radiation. He doesn't speak like that. What he said was mobile communication is the drop that caused the barrel to overflow. Of course, when I speak to the Swiss, I use the Swiss example. Here we would say this is the straw that broke the back of the camel. Okay? So it started. What happens in a musical instrument? In a musical instrument, if you hit a chord and echo starts, if you stop that chord, the echo will not stop. So once the echo starts, all new sources come and join in, come and join in. So if you come later on, after a year or something, and take away the antenna, it won't make any difference, it will not get better. So lowering it to half a strength or quarter of a strength will not help you, because the resonance has taken place. And one of the things that we noticed there, and they are aware of, the peasants. The peasants in Switzerland are aware of what we call Earth radiation. These are grids in the atmosphere coming from the Earth radiation. Now, this Earth radiation, like I said, it comes out in grids about 2 meters down to 1.5, and usually you have a positive and a negative line. When two positives cross, you have a positive node, like let's say a vortex like that, which is good for you, it's not harmful. When two negatives cross, then you have another vortex which affects your immune system, and it has been found that Earth radiation is the main cause for cancer. In 1920, a scientist called von Thor made a survey in Wilhelmsburg, and they put all the cancer cases and studied all underground rivers and their crossings with the Earth energy lines, and they came to this conclusion, which they repeated in 10 other cities later, and came to that conclusion. Now, the farmers don't think that way. For the farmer, they know this problem before cancer, before all that. They know that there are places that are cancerous for trees. If you put a tree on that place, you'll have abnormal growth, you'll have like tumors, you'll have things like that. If an animal is on this place, you'll have less milk, you'll have the meat will not be tender anymore, you'll have stillbirths. Okay, but these are Earth radiations. They were always there for thousands of years. What happened? Why? Those problems increased. I mean, there's no reason. Now, when you think of my theory of this resonance, the Earth radiation now, there's resonance. Somebody had a crossing under his bed. He could endure it, now he can't endure it. So it's the interplay of all the sources. And here they are saying, we were there when he solved the problem of Hamburg. We saw him tackle all the sources, all the electromagnetic sources at the same time, and he kept going after one and the other until he managed to stop the echo. See, this harmful echo. So this is a very big change, a very important change here. Now, with my colleagues here in architecture, Dr. Ibrahim Karim, maybe when I see I want to go more into why in ancient times, how people came to building orthogonal buildings and things like that. Why not just natural? I mean, does orthogonality have something in nature? But maybe that's for another lecture when we are architects together. We will do those things. Here, of course, like I told you, when things are unbelievable, you get sometimes titles like that. Usually, the Swiss people, I don't know what happened here, the computer is starting to...
It's getting offended.
Yeah, it's getting offended and doing its own way. Well, we'll find a way. Maybe I'll give you a 5-minute break. You can stand up and all that, and then get the pictures back in place. Okay? So that's the relation.